So we have tremendous expertise in front of us, and we are going to discuss a whole variety of areas to do with the category of gender. Is it still useful? Where is it useful? How might we overcome it? And we have three very distinguished speakers who are going to be bringing that to us today. On my right-hand side here, we have Dr. Finn Mackay, who is the founder of the London Feminist Network, but is now lecturer at the University of West of England and in sociology, and author most recently of a book called Radical Feminism. On my left is Angela Eagle, Member of Parliament, Labour Member of Parliament for Wallasey. And on the left-hand side just beyond, we are delighted to have with us Professor Patricia MacCormack, who specialises in continental philosophy. She teaches at Anglia Ruskin University. She publishes and lectures on sexuality, queer theory, feminism and ethics, and her latest book is The Animal Catalyst. To start us off, I'm going to turn to Finn Mackay, if I may, and ask Finn, gender is a term that clearly has had an awful lot of use, and it's also travelled a very long distance in terms of the way we think about it, but is it still useful, or are we in a sense outgrowing it?
Okay, well, thank you. I think it's important, before we get into the debate here, to make a very clear distinction between the two terms gender and sex. So these two terms out there in the world are always conflated, often wrongly. So biological sex refers to physical, biological, bodily characteristics. It's a descriptive label that we put onto people's bodies, usually at birth, based on biological features. And currently we recognise female, male and intersex as those labels. So gender, however, is not biological. Gender is the term used to refer to masculinity, femininity, androgynous, camp, unicorn, all whatever other sorts of ways people might want to define their expression and their style and their personal identity. It is deeply felt. It's a key part of most of our identities, and in that sense, it is real, but it is not born, it is made. Gender is a social construct that changes over time and place and culture. Babies are not born macho or boyish or girlish. Babies are not born liking football or frocks. They are not born with a biological drive to sit with their legs apart versus crossed. They don't have a fancy for long hair and makeup in the womb. They're not born neurologically predisposed to pursuing either low-paid caring work or construction apprenticeships. What is considered appropriately masculine or feminine, clothing, jobs, hobbies, roles, changes in line with the socio-economic and political climate. So while around the world babies have been born with pretty similar bodies, pretty similar biological characteristics forever, the same cannot be said for gender. Gender fluxes and changes, so it cannot and should not be described as biological or natural or fixed or in the brain, or these other sort of essentialist claims that are sometimes made for gender. So coming back to the question then of the debate, I can see why it may seem and feel radical to use terms and claim identities such as gender fluid or non-binary, for example. But these labels can be counterproductive because they can end up strengthening the very institutions that they suggest that they wish to take apart. So the category of non-binary, for example, reinforces the binary in a sense, because in order for there to be a non-binary, there has to be a binary in the first place. And I would suggest actually that gender comes naturally to no one. Everyone works hard at their gender. Most people are trying to be masculine or feminine and worry that they are not masculine or feminine enough. Look at the billions spent on gym membership, beauty products, cosmetic surgery by men and women, the numbers of young people, boys and girls, self-harming, extreme dieting from younger and younger ages, suffering eating disorders, taking illegal muscle-building steroids or overtraining in the gym. These brutal statistics also illustrate that point. Gender is a profoundly political category. It is intended to distinguish within our system of sex rank. So the answer cannot be just to add more and more categories to the rainbow of gender if Anywhere along the spectrum, women are still being oppressed by men. Women being paid less because they have an F on their birth certificate, men being refused parental leave because they have an M on theirs, fetuses aborted because they are girls, men getting away with rape. This system of sex rank has to end, and that can only be done through collective liberation movements. It cannot be done individually alone through personal expression, which calls only for recognition of increasingly diverse personal identities.
So just to be clear on that last point, Finn, you are saying this struggle cannot be carried out simply through recognition of individual preference.
There's a lot of good things about the massive cultural shift we're seeing in the understanding of the fixity of sex, sexuality, gender and sex. That's a really interesting and powerful and real shift. But we mustn't throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak, not to be overly biological about it. We mustn't throw away collective liberation movements, because sadly we still need them.
Thank you very much for that very clear point. You've given us plenty there that we're going to come back to in just a few minutes. But not before I've turned to Angela Eagle. Angela, gender, is it a category that you still find useful, productive or fruitful, or do we need to move beyond it?
Well, I have to say I agree a lot with Finn's analysis there. I mean, there are issues about empowerment, about gender stereotypes, about the roles that historically have been allotted to men and women across the world, not only in our own society, that we need to liberate ourselves from. I, for one, believe, for example, that the Enlightenment never included women. I think that Mary Wollstonecraft used to write a little bit about that. And if we did refound and complete the Enlightenment by including women, their views, their opinions, their life experiences, then we would have a better society. We'd have a better understanding of what rationality was. We would have heard and included women's voices, and of course that goes for all other marginalised voices as well, because the more that we can hear and respond to people's life experiences and accommodate them in our political calculations, in our view of what a just society should be, the more likely we are to create a more humane and sustainable society. So the battle that women have had over years to get reasonable recognition for their needs in a society, to be liberated from the very rigid stereotypes that have prevented women from achieving their full potential, the better our society will be. I became a feminist, and one that fought for liberation, when I was 8 years old. I remember it very well, the actual moment. I went along to play chess to the Formby Junior Chess Competition because I'd discovered that I could play chess, and my dad had carted me along to this competition, and me and my twin sister were the only girls there playing. And I sat down all thinking the world was fantastic and at my feet, ready for me to go and explore. Had no idea that there was a problem until I sat down opposite this little boy who looked at me in horror and said, "This can't be right, girls don't play chess." And he actually started panicking, and first of all I thought, what is he going on about? And then I thought, he's frightened of losing to a girl. That is what's going on here. So obviously I beat him. And I won the tournament. And I realised there was an even bigger problem when I was awarded a Biggles book as the prize. So it was then that I was told that girls' brains were smaller than boys, and therefore they couldn't play chess, and they wouldn't ever be as good. And some of our best chess players in this country still think that way, by the way. So then I thought, right, there's a battle to be had here, and that's when I joined in.
So it sounds from what you're saying, Angela, as if gender, the construction of ideas, for instance, that women can't play chess, are still with us, still need to be battled against. We're not yet in a point where we can go beyond gender.
We are nowhere near at that. I would love us to be able to go beyond those kinds of gender stereotypes which turn into economic reality. It would be fantastic. I would put a big tick in that box that opened up when I first went to that chess tournament. But we are nowhere near. We are actually going backwards in a lot of places. And in other areas of the world, virtually no progress has been made. So we've still got a huge issue of gender stereotyping, of teaching and socializing boys and girls to be how they are expected to be, boys tough, girls empathetic. It's oppressive to both sets of people.
For more debates, talks and interviews, subscribe today to the Institute of Art and Ideas at iaitv.